Hello, hello. Welcome back to Searching for Service. Reminder that this is a show connecting Rotarians and non-Rotarians to service opportunities, and we do that by having amazing guests on that tell stories and talk about projects that we're working on. I'm your host, Joe Kirk, and with me is...
Chad Larson.
Yeah, fellow. And with us today is Suzanne Kochevar. Yes, I got it. I practiced this 50,000...
Suzanne.
Did I say Sue?
Susan.
Oh, Susan. Suzanne. Yeah. I was so focused. Suzanne. Here, can we just try that again? Let's. How about you do it?
Well, thanks for joining us, Suzanne. You know what we like to start is kind of tell us more about how you got involved with Rotary, and
Sure.
Before we kind of dive into the topic of the Lake Street Project.
Okay, great. First of all, thank you for having me on. It's really fun to do this. I appreciate it. I got involved with Rotary because I had been living in the Excelsior area for about 40 years, and I've always worked outside of that area. And I came from a really small town in northern Minnesota, and where everybody knew everybody. Yeah. But I realized in Excelsior, I didn't know anybody. And it was like, how do I get to know folks? The one person that I did know happened to be the mayor, because he was in the same industry that I was in. So Nick and I would sit down and have coffee once in a while. I said, Nick, how do I get involved and get to know people in Excelsior? And he said, well, you join Rotary. And I said, well, then, take me to Rotary. Yeah. And that's exactly how I got involved. The whole idea was I wanted to meet people. I wanted to be able to go down the street and say hi to folks. That's what happens when you're in a small town, and everybody knows everybody. What I also wanted, because I hadn't been involved with the kind of service projects that I really wanted to be involved with. I was busy raising kids. I was doing other things, working many, many hours a week. And I was at a point where I really, really was missing that and wanted to get involved with things along the service line. So Rotary seemed to do both of those. Yeah. Introduced me a ton of great people in the Excelsior area, and also give me opportunities to do different kinds of service projects.
Yeah, the service side is always what hooks people, it seems like.
It is.
Consistently, that's what we've heard.
Yeah, and it just depends on how you get into it. Some people get into it from the professional standpoint. Some people get into it because they either grew up with it or legacy. Right. Some people, they were exposed to youth exchange. I feel like that's always a big connector. And so it really doesn't matter how you get connected. It feels like once you're in the door, you're kind of all in the same pond, right?
Well, mine actually came by my mom and dad were in everything. I mean, they were very, very active in the community. So I learned about the importance of community at a very early age. I was really tiny and would sleep on blankets on the floor at community meetings that they had. And so I knew what it was like to be involved with stuff. And then in a small town, you also have a small school. Well, then a small school says you can be involved in all the activities.
Right. Yeah.
So, I was in everything that I could possibly be in, including 4-H. And so it was just part of my growing up that I was doing service projects and involved in community.
Do you have any early service projects that you can think of, either one that you did when you first joined Rotary or maybe one that you did as a kid that was your favorite?
Well, I guess that as a kid, doing demonstrations was one of the things that I really loved. But I also raised sheep, and I showed sheep. And actually, I had the Grand Champion lamb at the Minnesota State Fair one year. So that is one of my most favorite memories. Really, it was great.
Should have put that in the bio.
That just popped up. As far as probably some of the most interesting service projects after I joined Rotary, I was very interested in the international piece of Rotary at the time. And I had a friend who was from Ethiopia, and she got me very involved in some of the events that they were doing around the refugee children. In other words, they were unaccompanied children. They ended up in a refugee camp, kids that were from like 5 to 18, I believe was the range. And we were providing a lot of money that could be used for things like beds and so forth because they had no place to stay. Yeah. It ended up several years later that I had the opportunity to go to Ethiopia and with her and actually saw the environment that these kids were living in. And, I mean, it was certainly better than when it started, but it was no resort area, I can tell you.
Yeah.
It was and these little kids were just amazing, and they had been pretty much set aside in their communities, either because their parents had died or their parents were concerned that they were going to be captured. And so these little kids would go out into the desert, walk until hopefully somebody that was a positive patrol would pick them up and take them to that unaccompanied youth refugee camp. So that was probably the one that was the most powerful for me and that I learned the most, about. Yeah.
Wow, that's
It was interesting to see, to say the least. You learn a lot, and you really start to appreciate what you have when you're sitting with those little guys and girls. They were also the other thing that was surprising to me was they were so happy. I mean, it's like I guess they'd learned to live with very little. Yeah. And but their zest for life was just amazing, and
something we can all learn from, right? I mean,
oh my gosh, yes, right.
I mean, think about what they would do with what we have.
Yeah,
The embarrassment of riches that we have every day. It's good context.
Makes me really feel and recognize the fact that I'm extremely privileged. To live where I live.
You know, we're talking more about today. We're going to get into the Rotary Community Corps Lake Street project. Tell us just how you started down the path, and before we get into more of what's going on with the project. But how did you get engaged and start working on it?
Okay, it's almost 3 years ago when George Floyd was murdered.
Yeah,
and most of us can probably remember where were we at when we saw that video.
Yep.
And where we were at as we watched our city burn.
Yes.
And I know it sounds a little dramatic, but it's actually true. I was sitting on the sofa in my living room watching this fire, and something happened, honestly, inside of me. It's like, this has got to stop.
Yeah.
And here are people who have worked their whole life to build a business, and all of these things are burning. Their livelihoods, there's danger to their lives. Most of them were first or second generation immigrants.
Yeah.
And something hit me. And I knew that at that point I probably was never going to be the same as I was the minute before.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, what can I do? And I do know the story about the sand dollar, where every little piece of sand and sand dollar is important. And one person can help. That is true. But when you get more people helping, you can get more done. Yeah. So I got to thinking, okay, I can't do a whole heck of a lot myself, but maybe our Rotary Club can help one business come out of this disaster.
Yeah.
So I wasn't on our Rotary board at that time, but I called the Rotary president and asked her what she thought about it. She says, why don't you come to the board meeting, which happened to be a few days later. So I presented it to the board, and I said, if I can, find a business, can we support that business? Excuse me. And she said, or the board said yes.
Yeah.
So then I called my brother, who happens to live fairly close in the Lake Street general area. He lives in the Seward area.
Yeah.
And I said, what is the organization that really knows the businesses on Lake Street? And he said, well, that's called Lake Street Council.
Yep.
So I called the Lake Street Council and said, here's what I'd like to do. About that same time, I had contacted our district governor, who at the time was Tom Gumpf, and said, Tom, this is what our club is going to do. Do you think other clubs might be interested in doing this too? And he said, I barely started telling him about it. He says, I'm on it. And he sent out an email to all the clubs. I got 14 responses from 14 clubs. Now, keep in mind, this is 3 months into the pandemic.
Yep. Yeah.
Or 4 or 5 months maybe into the pandemic. And so I talked to each one of those clubs, and obviously everything is online that we're doing.
Yep.
And 8 of them committed to wanting to have a partner. Some of them felt they just didn't have the ability to do this online.
Yeah.
And so it's not a great way to set up a partnership like this online, but it was the only option really that we had.
We're all doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So when I talked to the Lake Street Council, they had only 4 people at this point in time as employees, and they said, you know what, we love the idea, but we're in a crisis mode here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I said, so how can I help? And they said, well, you can give us names of commercial cleaners and glass people. I'm on it.
Yeah.
So kind of kept in touch for about the next 2-3 months. And at the same time, I was talking to these Rotary clubs that were interested. But I knew that the Lake Street Council, because they were the trusted entity, they were the ones that had to make the match. Me going in and trying to match up, I mean, the business owners were not going to trust me.
Yeah.
So
really exciting to hear more about this. We'll just go right into the next segment. We'll continue that conversation. But just as a reminder to our guests, you're listening to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Riverbend Nature Center is a free, nonprofit natural habitat in Faribault, Minnesota, with 743 acres, the Straight River, and 10 miles of trails. Despite no public funding, it offers educational programs to almost 10,000 youth and families annually. Riverbend seeks your feedback on its new strategic plan at rbnc.org/strategic-planning by March 30th. Thank you for your time.
Don't miss Leonard Skinner, Darius Rucker, REO Speedwagon, and Tyler Hubbard at Lakefront Music Fest, July 14th and 15th at Lakefront Park in Prior Lake. Leonard Skinner headlines July 14th with REO Speedwagon and Blackstone Cherry. Darius Rucker headlines July 15th with Tyler Hubbard of Florida Georgia Line and Joe Nichols. Tickets available at lakefrontmusicfest.com. That's lakefrontmusicfest.com. Produced by Prior Lake Rotary.
For decades, eradicating polio worldwide has been Rotary's cornerstone cause. We are incredibly close to ridding the globe of this virus, but we need everyone's help to get us to the goal. World Polio Day is October 24th. Please consider making a new donation to Polio Plus or increasing your already generous giving. Go to endpolio.org to be a part of this historical eradication of polio. You will help get vaccinations to the most remote parts of our world and help fulfill a promise we made to end polio now. 2 drops and it stops.
Rotary is a place for all community-minded people who want to serve their areas with the support of an international organization. Join Rotary to find service. Join Rotary to find inclusion. Join Rotary to find leadership. Join Rotary to find fun. Join Rotary to find friendship. Join Rotary to find a better version of the world. Find a Rotary Club near you at Rotary.org and click on Club Finder. There is a club out there for everyone. Find your fit with Rotary. Rotary.org. Hey, welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
I'm Chad Larson, and we're talking to Suzanne Kochevar right now about the Rotary Community Core Lake Street project. And before the break, you were telling us about really how you got started and the work, right away. Mm-hmm. So kind of keep us down that path. I'm really interested to hear how you took from, basically sourcing some things for them to growing it into the Rotary side of things.
Sure. So we have a wonderful person that we're working with at Lake Street Council. Her name is Zoanna Martinez, and I've learned so much from her. She's been with Lake Street Council for many years and knows, I think, everybody in South Minneapolis. And so it's been great working with her. She was the one that became the matchmaker. So I gave her information about the 8 Rotary clubs, like what their expertises were in their clubs, what languages they spoke, those types of things. And she came up with 9 businesses that wanted to partner. So she was the one that did the matching. So then Zoanna and I talked, and we knew that at the first meeting that we were going to have, the introduction meeting, this was also going to be online on Zoom.
Yeah, it was COVID time.
Which is not a good way to do it, but the only way we could. So Zoanna needed to lead those meetings, and we had the owner and the Rotarian who was the point person from that club and me in those meetings. And we basically had the owner tell us about what their situation had been through the civil unrest. Also, they had also just experienced 3 years of road construction on Lake Street and the pandemic. So they talked about how all three of those things had affected their business, and specifically some history about where they came from, if they were first or second generation immigrants, and then what are the things that they needed right away. And then the Rotarian talked about the expertise that their club had and how they might be able to link in, and we decided on what the help was that could be given to the business owner. So that was kind of the core of the whole project. Each individual club had different things that they were working on because each business was different, of course. Some were completely destroyed and some were damaged and looted, but not completely destroyed.
That was all different levels there.
That's right.
And you talked a lot about how there's a system now that you guys have developed that you hope that you can, scale and use in other communities as well. Talk a little bit about that system and how that came about.
Well, somebody asked me shortly after we got started, so what's your business model? And I started to laugh and said, kind of seat of the pants.
Yeah.
There was no business model when we started. It was just, what can we do, and let's jump in and not spend any time, trying to figure out what's the business model we're going to use. No, we're going to get in. We're going to help with glass. We're going to help with whatever we can help with, and go on. But we have learned a lot in the last 3 years. Zoanna has been a great teacher for us. She gave us some very important information early on. One of the things was she said, listen, listen, listen.
Yeah.
We who are in business often are very quick to take action, and which is good. I'm not saying that's bad, but we have to have action. But we also, if we don't know exactly what we're doing, we might be fixing the wrong things.
Yeah.
Right.
And we needed to listen to find out what it was the business owners needed as opposed to what we thought the business owners needed.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty hard lesson sometimes, but it was the right lesson. And because of Zoanna, we were able to follow through with that, I think, in most of the situations. She also said, go slow. And that was also hard.
I bet that's hard. You see everything going on. And said, we want to have an impact as soon as possible.
Right. And actually, the business owners they started to really, I think, start to trust us. Maybe quicker than typically because they were in such dire straits in many cases. And so if we could get in there and help them get signage back up, we were able to find Rotarians that had design ability, that could do the signage pro bono, that could actually fabricate it pro bono and install it pro bono.
Wow.
So that really would help. Well, there's a lot of trust when you can build when you have that kind of a reaction and interaction. And there were a lot of different things that we were able to do. Signage being one of the big ones, but also there were evaluations on electrical and insurance and even some legal kinds of issues that came up, because a lot of people did not have insurance or did not have the right kind of insurance.
Yeah.
So bringing in the expertise where we were able to have it, I think, started to really build some trust. I would say that we've really built a lot of trust now. In fact, the people that we've been working with, I consider very good friends, very dear friends, and truly enjoy being with them for the last 3 years.
Well, and from the sounds of it, it sounds like a lot of the process has to do with the community outreach, understanding what they need, and then to be able to effectively react to those needs versus going in and plugging the hole. Like that sounds like kind of the learning lesson that you guys kind of formed. And so how does that play? Like if you were to take that into another community, let's say a disaster happens and there's another community that needs this same level of response. And so how would you take those lessons that you learned from Lake Street and apply them there?
Well, we have put together a business model now.
All right.
Now, we're not seat of the pants anymore. But we have taken these things that we've learned, and we put this into a model really that is just exactly what I've just described. Find a trusted advisor or a trusted organization with the community that you're in. And that person or that organization becomes the matchmaker.
Yep.
Then you move in with quality help.
Yeah.
So that you've got expertise in the area that it's needed. That first meeting is absolutely critical when the business owner is meeting the Rotarian for the point person, the Rotarian point person, for the first time. That's really an important meeting because that's where you start to actually develop the trust. And so the point person, from the Rotary perspective, the point person is the key.
Yeah.
They're the project manager, if you will. I
Right.
mean, they are taking care of the relationship building, and they're taking care of making sure that the individual projects are getting done. We had a couple goals right from the very beginning. I mean, these were goals. We didn't have a business model, but we had goals.
Yeah.
We had 2 goals. And the first goal was that we would use the Rotary expertise to help in any kind of a partnership way that we could to help with immediate issues.
Yep.
But I felt the most important goal was the long-term goal that we had, and that was all about building genuine, authentic relationships and friendships.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like we're getting to now at this point after 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's been super important. Now, we've also the one-to-one partnerships is where we started, but we've also grown into a couple other areas. And so if you had a 3-legged stool, the one-to-one partnership was the solid leg, the big permanent first leg. And the second leg was one where we knew Lake Street's a long street.
Yeah.
And so
Huge.
we knew that although we were working with 9 business owners, they did not know each other. For the most part, they didn't know each other.
Yep.
So we thought, okay, they really need to come together and network, and
Yeah.
they wanted to. And so we started something called the Owners Networking Group. And so we meet for the last 14 months. We have met monthly. And we get all of the leaders or the business owners together. And we also then invite in people to speak to them or to listen to what their concerns are first and then to speak to those concerns. And we've had people like crime prevention specialists come in. We've had precinct officers come in. We had the precinct officer from the 3rd Precinct and the 5th Precinct come in. We've had the CEO from Avio.
Oh, yeah.
Avio.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I always say that wrong.
Yeah. I can't say anything.
But she was wonderful, and she talked about what they've been doing and how they are helping along the way. So it's really introducing them to a lot of also programs that the city offers, because the city does offer a lot of things. Zoanna Martinez comes to all of our meetings, and she's wonderful because she keeps us up to date on what the Lake Street Council is doing.
Yep.
And that's such an important piece of that. And sometimes the business owners, they're so busy trying to run their
Right.
business that they don't have time to be going in and searching out all these things.
Absolutely.
So that's where we feel like the point persons can be on top of these things. They can say they know if this particular program is going to be applicable for their business owner,
Yep.
and then can get in touch with their business owner and say, here, you might want to try this out. And also, language was a bit of an issue, really only in one situation so far, but we've been able to take care of that, and that has been good. We also have joined up with, I don't know if I should say joined up, but we've met with the new senior vice president of First Independence Bank, which is the Black-owned bank on Lake Street, which is a new bank. I think it was in October that they started, and we're doing all of our owners networking meetings at the bank now. So,
what a wonderful resource. It's been really nice to hear about, and I'm excited to hear about it more into the next segment about the success of the Lake Street project. So
yeah, as we come back from break, we'll get into some updates and where things are going.
Okay.
Just a reminder, you're listening to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
I'm Chad Larson.
Rotary is a place for all community-minded people who want to serve their areas with the support of an international organization. Join Rotary to find service. Join Rotary to find inclusion. Join Rotary to find leadership. Join Rotary to find fun. Join Rotary to find friendship. Join Rotary to find a better version of the world. Find a Rotary Club near you at Rotary.org. and click on Club Finder. There is a club out there for everyone. Find your fit with Rotary. Rotary.org.
For decades, eradicating polio worldwide has been Rotary's cornerstone cause. We are incredibly close to ridding the globe of this virus, but we need everyone's help to get us to the goal. World Polio Day is October 24th. Please consider making a new donation to Polio Plus or increasing your already generous giving. Go to endpolio.org to be a part of this historical eradication of polio. You will help get vaccinations to the most remote parts of our world and help fulfill a promise we made to end polio now. 2 drops and it stops.
Don't miss Leonard Skinner, Darius Rucker, REO Speedwagon, and Tyler Hubbard at Lakefront Music Fest, July 14th and 15th at Lakefront Park in Prior Lake. Leonard Skinner headlines July 14th with REO Speedwagon and Blackstone Cherry. Darius Rucker headlines July 15th with Tyler Hubbard of Florida Georgia Line and Joe Nichols. Tickets available at lakefrontmusicfest.com. That's lakefrontmusicfest.com. Produced by Prior Lake Rotary.
Riverbend Nature Center is a free, nonprofit natural habitat in Faribault, Minnesota, with 743 acres, the Straight River, and 10 miles of trails. Despite no public funding, it offers educational programs to almost 10,000 youth and families annually. Riverbend seeks your feedback on its new strategic plan at rbnc.org/strategic-planning by March 30th. Thank you for your time.
Hey, welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. Today we're talking to Suzanne Kochevar about the Rotary Community Core Lake Street project. That's a mouthful, but we're talking before the break on some of the things that have been going on in the meetings. Tell us a little bit about some of the maybe some success stories or some of the impact, maybe even specific ones that you guys have had and worked on. And tell us more about them.
Okay, I mentioned the 3-legged stool with the one-to-ones being the first leg. The second leg was the Owners Networking Group. Yep. And through the Owners Networking Group, the main topic of conversation, probably for the first 2-3 months, was the safety of Lake Street and how they're going to get people down to Lake Street so that their businesses can continue to grow. Also, the issues around people experiencing homelessness, and that was also a big issue. One of the things that we put together in this Owners Networking Group was we called it a handout on people experiencing homelessness or for our friends without homes, because the business owners do have situations that come up that are difficult and they really don't know exactly what to do, who to call. Not everyone should all the time be calling 911. Yeah. And so this is a sheet. We call it a cheat sheet, but it's something that they can actually keep in their business. And if a situation comes up, like say that there's somebody asking for warmth or cooling or a bathroom, who do they call? Yep. Because sometimes it's fine to let some people in, but there was a situation where somebody went into the bathroom, locked themselves in the bathroom for hours. Yeah. So what do you do about that? And the thing is that the owners are very respectful and concerned about the homeless population. Mm-hmm. They're not looking to totally, be nasty or anything like that. Yeah. It's totally different. It's how do we do this with dignity? Yeah. And so that was really important. So that's why we felt that this sheet would be a cheat sheet that would be really good and quick, not only for the business owners, but for their employees. Yeah.
If any of the business owners on Lake Street are listening, where can they find this sheet?
They could find it. I would be happy to send them this sheet. And if they want to contact me, they can do that through sending an email to alexa@rotary5950.org. And how do I can repeat that again?
Yeah.
Okay. Alexa, and it's ALEXA @rotary5950.org.
Perfect.
We'll also put it in the description on the podcast. So if you go to our website and look on the Searching for Service page, you'll be able to see it there as well.
What a wonderful resource for business owners. And, what's interesting is you don't have to be on Lake Street to have that be meaningful. I mean, anybody that
really expands.
A lot of people have those same exact, concerns and want to be able to react with, like I like how you said it, with dignity while ensuring the the business stays.
Well, and the safety of their customers.
Correct.
That are coming into.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you balance there as a business owner.
Can you share a few success stories that
Sure.
you guys have had so far?
Sure. We've worked with a company. It's Los Andes Latino Bistro. And by the way, if you like Peruvian food, Ecuadorian food, this is a place to go. But we worked with them. He was aware, the owner, Guarma, was aware of of Rotary. And so he was very open to bringing Rotary in to work with them. And he also was a person who does a lot of outreach into the South Minneapolis area. So around Thanksgiving, it would have been 2 years ago, he called me and said, so we want to give away 100 meals into South Minneapolis. How do we do that? And so we got on it right away, found a ways that he could give 100 meals for Thanksgiving. And that went well. And then he said, how about I want to do this again for Christmas. So that was one thing that was a little different than what we actually had set out to think we were doing. But it was just the connecting and so forth. Another business, which is called Post Plus, and what they are is a mailing and shipping business. And they had quite a bit of damage, and they needed an insurance audit. So we were able to do an insurance audit. They also needed an electrical audit, and they needed some changes to wiring. So because of the Rotarians in that particular club, they were able to help them. They also were doing some contract reviews, and so they asked for some help on that from one of the attorneys in that club. So that was really great. So there's been another area that is often helpful is a lot of people didn't really use QuickBooks or something similar to that. So to help them get through the financial aspect, a lot of them lost all of that information too in their computers and everything. So that was really tough. We worked with another money transfer business, and that is the business I talked about a little bit earlier, where we did the signage, where they actually designed it, fabricated it, hung it, and so forth, and also provided furniture for the area. So there's been a lot of different types of things. One of the other clubs got a phone call, and this was about the time of, I think it was about the time of the trial for Derek and
Chauvin.
Yeah, I forgot his name for a second. But so he and they were concerned about possible outbreak of more violence.
Yeah,
right.
I think we all were.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we all were. And so they called and said, can you come down and help us put up boards? And so within a half an hour, there were people on their way down to help board up some of the areas.
That quick.
And
wow.
that was really important. All those things start to build trust, and that is really what we felt we really needed to do.
Yeah.
We also, because of this concern about people not wanting to go down to Lake Street because it was unsafe, we thought, well, we held open houses for each of the 9 businesses. And if you have an open house, you try to get the mayor, right?
Yep.
So we got the mayor of Minneapolis.
Perfect.
And he went to each business and talked to each person. If the mayor comes, the media comes.
Yep.
And so that meant that we were on television. The owners were on television. Those businesses were on television. It started to open up to just people's eyes to saying, okay, this happened not that long ago.
Yeah.
And look at how clean the streets are considering what just took place.
Yeah, how quick the response was.
So that was really another thing. We've also done some cleanup projects. Last summer we did a big cleanup project around Midtown Global Market.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the kinds of things that we try to get involved with. We're currently working on the third leg of that stool, and that is to create some events or some ways of bringing people down in groups. And one of them is, I don't know if you've noticed or been down there, but there's some amazing murals that
there is.
are up. So we're looking at doing some bus tours with murals so that we can engage people to see down and do it in a safe way that they feel safe. Because once you see that it's really okay, you're comfortable then coming down for a Friday night and having dinner at one of the wonderful restaurants.
Yeah, I think the misconception is it's not safe down there, and I think that's only true if you haven't been there.
Exactly.
I
think you're right.
I haven't been on every block there, but I've been numerous times since since the unrest and everything that happened, and they never felt unsafe.
Yeah.
I think that's a misconception out there, and only for people that haven't actually taken the time to go and check it out.
Well, it speaks to how important it is that you're doing kind of the grassroots reach out too, because you start with the community itself, and you don't know how people are getting their information, or perception's reality, it seems like today. And the more and more that you talk about the reality of what's happening, you've got these great business owners who are invested in Lake Street and continue to come back and have recovered and have partnered with other people, and it just continues to build that. I mean, that's how it. That's how it was before. It took time to build that reputation over time, and give people the confidence. But I think what most people miss now is how quickly it recovered and how quickly it's been back to its former self, more or less.
And getting closer.
Yeah, and even getting better in a lot of ways.
I think you're right, getting closer. It's taken a while because all these things have to build, and many of them, those things take money to do. And even though there's been a lot of money that's been distributed, it still takes time to do it.
Yep.
I heard someone make the comment that it would take 10 years to get back to where it was. My personal opinion is it's not going to take 10 years, but it's definitely taking more than 2 or 3.
Yeah, sure. That's good. Well, you got the supply, on top of the unrest and everything you're going through.
We got to forget that we were locked in our homes for a little while
there
too.
There were so many other things that every business was dealing with, and you can understand how it's going to impact trying to rebuild.
Yeah. And part of this third leg is getting the neighborhoods involved.
Yep.
That's a big piece of it too. So the next cleanup that we want to do is going to be not just the Rotarians and the business owners, but we're trying to get the neighborhoods involved.
Go to the neighborhood association.
So that's a way people can get involved. And maybe we can talk a little bit more in the last segment on the front end here about how people can get involved with the Lake Street project.
You're listening to Searching for Service. I'm Chad Larson.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
And we'll be back.
Riverbend Nature Center is a free, nonprofit natural habitat in Faribault, Minnesota, with 743 acres, the Straight River, and 10 miles of trails. Despite no public funding, it offers educational programs to almost 10,000 youth and families annually. Riverbend seeks your feedback on its new strategic plan at rbnc.org/strategic-planning by March 30th. Thank you for your time.
Don't miss Leonard Skinner, Darius Rucker, REO Speedwagon, and Tyler Hubbard at Lakefront Music Fest, July 14th and 15th at Lakefront Park in Prior Lake. Leonard Skinner headlines July 14th with REO Speedwagon and Blackstone Cherry. Darius Rucker headlines July 15th with Tyler Hubbard of Florida Georgia Line and Joe Nichols. Tickets available at lakefrontmusicfest.com. That's lakefrontmusicfest.com. Produced by Prior Lake Rotary.
For decades, eradicating polio worldwide has been Rotary's cornerstone cause. We are incredibly close to ridding the globe of this virus, but we need everyone's help to get us to the goal. World Polio Day is October 24th. Please consider making a new donation to Polio Plus or increasing your already generous giving. Go to endpolio.org to be a part of this historical eradication of polio. You will help get vaccinations to the most remote parts of our world and help fulfill a promise we made to end polio now. 2 drops and it stops.
Rotary is a place for all community-minded people who want to serve their areas with the support of an international organization. Join Rotary to find service. Join Rotary to find inclusion. Join Rotary to find leadership. Join Rotary to find fun. Join Rotary to find friendship. Join Rotary to find a better version of the world. Find a Rotary Club near you at Rotary.org and click on Club Finder. There is a club out there for everyone. Find your fit with Rotary. Rotary.org.
Hey, welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. Today we're talking to Suzanne Kochevar from, the Rotary, but we're talking about the Rotary Community Core Lake Street project. Did I get it right?
You did.
I'm always stumbling on that one. But it's been very learned a lot today about the impact you guys are having and some of the things that you've already done. What can people do to get involved, whether they're Rotarians or non-Rotarians, to continue to grow this project and grow the businesses and try and restore things?
Sure. Well, if you're a Rotarian, then you can go to your Rotary Club, and it doesn't make any difference where you're a Rotarian.
Yep.
It could be in Minneapolis, it could be in St. Paul, it could be on outer state Minnesota, no matter where.
Yep.
And you have any businesses that are underserved in your community, and pretty much every community does have some
Yep.
underserved businesses. This model will work for that type of a situation.
Yeah.
And so I would say that if you are a Rotarian, go to your Rotary Club, go to the district website, our district 5950, and there'll be a portal there that you can enter into to get all of the information about how to actually set it up.
Yeah.
You can also contact me through the email that I gave you earlier, Alexa at 5950 Rotary.
We'll have it on the
Whatever that was.
We'll have it in the description on the podcast if you're looking for it.
Thank you. So that would be one way to do it for Rotarians. For people who are non-Rotarians that would like to participate in this event, get in touch with me through that same website.
Yep.
And whatever your business is or your expertise is, we'll see if there's a place,
Find a fit.
if we have an owner that needs that expertise. Sometimes there are unique needs.
Yeah.
And so, and we can find a lot of those things within our Rotary membership, but not always.
Yep.
And so knowing that there's another location to go to, that would be how I would suggest they do that.
Awesome. Perfect.
So.
Great. Well, I mean, this is always our favorite part of the show where we get to kind of dream ahead and think about all of the things that we've been talking about. So in this case, the Lake Street project, as well as, what your involvement looks like. So let's dream ahead. What's your ideal of all this? Like, where does this go?
Well, one of the things that truly excites me is that this is very scalable, and it is something that can happen around the world. And Rotary is an international organization.
Yes, it is.
So it can work here in Minnesota, in Lake Street, but it can work in Nova Scotia. It can work in Kenya. It can work any place.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're looking at doing now. We are looking at expanding beyond Lake Street. We do have a few contacts that we're able to make into the Rondo area. And also there's been some discussion about North Minneapolis. And so we're hoping to move in that direction really soon. But I looked at how many Rotary clubs there were internationally and found out that there were 46,000 Rotary clubs. So I'm thinking my big dream is each Rotary club take on a business. That's 46,000 businesses that we can help. Now that's going to make a difference.
That's going to make a big difference.
And, and that's what I'm going to work towards.
I love it.
So,
One of my favorite things that you've talked about is, yes, the response to the actual event, but it was the long-term support and some of those systems that you guys have worked really hard to build amongst the business owners, amongst the community, and then the tools that they're given to succeed long-term. I think that's the most important thing that I've taken away from this is there's this really lovely process of long-term sustainability when you have great leadership. So you mentioned that connector. I always think the connector between the two communities, and then the rallying of the support of the leadership, and then the community itself. I think that was really powerful, and that is certainly a model that people can take on, regardless if your community has had disaster or not. Maybe it's just going through a change.
Yep.
right.
And you can apply that same model. So I love that.
I've never come across any community that I've ever lived in or spent any time in that didn't have some underserved businesses.
Yeah.
And that's basically the key. That's the only thing that you need. You need a Rotary Club and an underserved business. And you can come together and make something happen. It has to be, I think the key thing to remember is it needs to be led by the owner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Listen.
And as many of the professional business people that are in some of our clubs, we need to be careful that we remember that.
Yeah, it makes sense. Listen and
yeah. The other thing that we're trying to do right now is work in joining together other groups who are small groups that are meeting. I know a group of black business owners in the Nicollet area that are meeting, and so we've invited them to the owners networking meeting, and we've gone to some of their one of their meetings, and so we're trying to connect up with other groups, because the whole opportunity here is to have a bigger voice as they go to the city and talk to them about what's going to be happening in their community. So that's
and just being able to share unique experiences based on whatever your history is or where you are. And might be the very thing that they're looking to solve, and you're like, oh, we've already done it already. Here, just do this.
Well, and I think it's important to do it on a business level, which is what the owners networking is, but also on a social level, because that's where the business level, you take care of business.
Yep.
The social level, you start to build friendships.
Yep.
And community.
So to me, the two of them are really important to do. And we've had, I've reached a point now since I've been going down to Lake Street now for almost 3 years on a fairly regular basis. Let me tell you, I can give you some good restaurant recommendations.
Yeah.
It's really, you start to really get to know people and know exactly what it is. I've visited all the places that we're working with and many others, and have found it to be just really very joyful and very the business owners are very committed to providing really good business service. I also have been so very impressed with the kind of commitment that they have to rebuilding. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I was surprised about when we first started talking to the owners was that they didn't have a lot of anger and bitterness.
Yeah.
Because they were like, we need to rebuild this. We can do it. We've done it before. We can do it again. That was the attitude. I made a comment to Zoanna Martinez with the Lake Street Council about how I was so surprised then. She said, well, a lot of them, especially if they are recent over in the United States, have come from very bad situations. They've seen this kind of thing before. Yeah. And it's not new for them. And I thought, wow. That means that's a lot.
Yeah.
What a nice connection to the beginning of our conversation where we talked about the kids was it Ethiopia?
In Ethiopia,
yeah.
Right.
And what would happen when, somebody that has come from something very hard gets access, gets the opportunity, and there it is
right.
they get their business destroyed, and they go, maybe we better build that back up again.
Yeah.
I know how to do that. I know how to do that.
I would cry, dig myself a hole, and not come out for 3 years.
It's so funny you say that, because I asked myself that same question. If I were sitting in their shoes, would I have that attitude? I would like to think I would.
Yeah.
But not so sure. I have not lived through even anything close to that myself personally.
Yeah.
So it's you just kind of admire that kind of grit.
Yeah.
Yeah. What resilience.
Yeah, and resilience.
Well, and that's part of the reason why they'll come back even better than ever.
I think it will.
Because of that, yeah.
I think it will. We have added new people to the one-to-ones that we do. We've added the Somalian Museum. The director there is moving the Somalian, and I didn't even know there was this Somalian Museum of Minnesota, and they're moving into the Midtown Market right now. And I think that will be great. He's joined our group. Another woman who has a Qatar restaurant, which is an Ethiopian restaurant, has joined the group. And so that's another person. Diamond Healthcare has joined the group. So we're getting more people in the one-to-one partnerships, as well as more people coming to the owners networking. And we'll put this all together for the events that we're going to do. So that's a three-legged stool that we've been working on. So
that's incredible. I mean, thank you so much for all the work that you've done on this project, and help spearhead. And I know that you've had a team around you as well.
Strong team.
But I mean, what a great. I mean, as much as George Floyd's murder was a tragedy, that sparked positive change for you. I mean, literally, you were like, I wasn't ever the same person again, and here we are.
Right, and I'll tell you, there have been two people who have really been right by my side every step of the way, and they're from the Eden Prairie AM Rotary Club. and Irene and Tim. And without them, it would be a lot tougher to do
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
But they've been great to work with, and along with all of the point persons.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah, I learned a lot and inspiring. So I appreciate you coming in, and thanks for giving us some time today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for listening to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. You can find us on any podcast platform. Please like us and follow us. And thanks for listening.
And just as a reminder, it's time to stop searching and start serving.